Everyone has a part to play in black empowerment. The enemy is a lot of things, but one thing the enemy is not is overly emotional when it comes to their fellow white
Welcome to my podcast, Cold Narratives. I'm your host, Iceberg Green. About to let y'all hear some of these cold narratives. Check it out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ron DeSantis, but he's actually the governor of Florida. And he's been in the news and the media about how he's trying to erase history and take away the history books and try to, pretty much this critical race theory stuff where they try to erase our history and just put one in there. So there was also a bill in Tennessee that just was up for debate, I believe, last week. And this was about executing prisoners by firing squads, some shit that they used to do back in the day. I mean, come on now. This guy actually wanted to add this amendment to it. So listen to this, man. This was recent. Check this out.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis works to legally censor teachings about historic and systemic racism in his state. An incident in Tennessee this week is showing us what can happen when people disregard that history. On Tuesday, a bill in the state legislature that would allow inmates to be executed by firing squad was brought up for debate before the Tennessee House's Criminal Justice Committee. One Republican lawmaker, State Representative Paul Cheryl, expressed support for the bill, but felt it didn't go far enough.
Now, I was just wondering about, could I put an amendment on that? It would include hanging by a tree.
An amendment to allow lynchings as a method of state-sponsored execution. Lynch mobs in Confederate states killed more than 2,800 people, about one person a week, between 1882 and 1930. 214 people were lynched in the state of Tennessee alone during this period. State Representative Cheryl has since apologized and says he regrets using, quote, very poor judgment. But his Democratic colleague, State Representative G.A. Hardaway, had this to say.
And I don't need to hear anybody talk about it wasn't me, that I wasn't alive back then. I wasn't alive back then either. But I can assure you that multi-generational trauma still exists.
Audio recording of Nuri Martinez speaking with two other Latino council members was released. On it, Martinez uses the Spanish word for little monkey to refer to the black son of a white councilman, and then went on to talk about how the parents are raising him.
Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. They are not owed that.
Okay, so even in politics, you got all these different political parties, whether it be liberal, Democrat, Republican, capitalist, socialist. They got so many different parties, and they're, it's hard for us to believe that they're for the people when they're so divided. You're for a particular part of people, and people lobby for you to be part of a particular crowd of people, and you know how that works. So politics has gotten real shady. I mean, they're really blatant about their racism, their anti-Semitic blabble, and their wordplay. So their narrative is cold and how they're trying to push this on us. So check this out.
Tim Alexander's disgust comes from this display of hate. Stuffed toys hanging by ropes from a branch above one of his campaign signs in Middle Township. This photo posted on a public Facebook page.
It really spoke to what I have been talking about on the campaign trail, and that is that we have too much division, we have too much tribalism, we have this sense of us against them.
The South Jersey congressional candidate, a Democrat, lost to Republican incumbent Jeff Van Drew in Tuesday's election. That evening, police learned of the racist act. It's being investigated as a hate crime. Authorities want to track down the person seen in these surveillance images, who they say hung the toys. The person was driving a dark sedan.
I'm not going to discuss racism against any other people because I'm not them. I'm a black man, so I'm going to discuss racism according to me being a black man and for my black people. So I just want to, put that out there so y'all won't think that I'm not mentioning y'all. No, I'm mentioning black people. Okay, so this is the last part to this segment. This is about mass shootings in America. When these crimes get committed, they're more so done by white men. And I'm not saying mass shootings doesn't happen in other races, but particularly we're going to talk about white men in this segment.
We know from just watching the news that most mass shootings seem to be committed by men, and research bears that out. The Violence Project, which defines a mass shooting as the murder of 4 or more people with firearms, says, quote, a staggering 98% of mass shootings are committed by men and disproportionately by white men. But one notable trend over the years has been how white mass shooters are often explained away as mentally ill or a lone gunman. And as Dr. Stephen Thrasher pointed out on Twitter over the weekend, when a white mass shooter is in his teens, like the 18-year-old Buffalo suspect, they are called teenagers. While black men, including those who are victims, like Michael Brown, are called an 18-year-old black man.
Because so often what we'll see is this smear campaign of these victims, which is bringing up events from their past, essentially dirt from their past, that almost justifies why they deserve their fate. You know, he was an addict, he was a criminal, he was a thug. So it really does take a concerted effort to portray them in a light that is not that. But when we talk about the view of these white gunmen as lone wolves, what that does is it separates them from the bigger problem. Of course, gun control is an issue. Of course, mental health is an issue. But the big problem here is white supremacist domestic terrorism. And oftentimes, these shooters will be described as a solo actor, even though they have referenced previous white supremacist shooters in their manifestos. And this is something that happens, it's a giving them the benefit of the doubt. It's not tying them to the bigger problem. It's not seeing them as much of a threat as other groups would be. So, for example, law enforcement does this too. We see this in a lot of systems. January 6th was planned all but out in the open, and yet law enforcement was not ready and waiting, knowing that the FBI says that this white supremacist domestic terrorism is one of the biggest threats facing the country, and we know that there's a history of it. This is a very real threat. The deadliest homegrown terrorist attacks in this country's history have been at the hands of white supremacist domestic terrorists.
They are, in the forefront of this, and they're always, when they get tried or, taken to court, it's always a mental issue. Oh, they grew up this way. They have so many mental issues. So this caused them to react to wanting to do violence and kill people. Now, black people, on the other hand, hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, brother. Ain't nothing. He did that consciously, and he knew what he was doing. They disregard the fact that he grew up maybe single mother, impoverished community, didn't have much, scared for his life every day he comes outside. But those don't play a factor. What plays a factor, he's black, and he wanted to do this. And that's just a double standard, and I don't appreciate that, and I think that we need to address these narratives. One more thing, everything that I'm posting has been within the last year.
Two big cases that we are tracking here in the Bay Area. We start with new charges in an attack on an African-American driver in Seminole.
The Department of Justice charged this Riverview man right here with a hate crime today. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office says Jordan Leahy sideswiped the driver and gave him the Nazi salute while pretending to shoot him. This happened in August of last year while the African-American driver was with his family.
For the people that say that, oh, that's so long ago, it's not the same nowadays, these are some examples to let you guys know it's still the same. Racism against black people is at an all-time high. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to say God bless everyone going through the struggle, and watch out for them cold narratives that the government be trying to push on us, y'all. And to all my black people, I would be nothing without y'all. Thank you all.
I've seen many things in many places. Stone cold killers with beautiful faces. The things we do for love, I have us crossed up. Cause in the streets, nigga, you get caught up. The faster the car, the faster the light. If it ain't foreign, then they say you're not living right. We used to fight for the cause, now the females want the dogs. But they say that woman can't raise him to be no man. Tell the government, they be thinking about the wrong shit. Tell the president, he be thinking about the wrong shit. Tell them politicians, they be thinking about the wrong shit. I told my PO, she be thinking about the wrong shit. Tell the government, they be thinking about the wrong shit. Tell the president, he be thinking about the wrong shit. Tell them politicians, they be thinking about the wrong shit. I told my PO, she be thinking about the wrong shit. I'm only one man, but with God I feel deep. Been 400 years of black